Hi, you guys. Happy Earth Day. Today is April 22nd, and I feel like a real heel because I was unable to come to class on Monday since I had a gig. And today, my 88-year-old dad is having a procedure done, and I want and need to be with him. And I know you all understand that. So, because we are almost at the end of the semester and this information is too important to skip, I asked my dear friend Tom to come and share this video with you. Let's all give it up for Tom Atwood, huh? Thank you, Tom. Thank you very, very much. Okay, you guys. You know how I've always told you that you need to have an internal bullshit detector on at all times, right? Well, there's no better place for that than when we're consuming news. So the terms that you need to know today are these, and we're going to go over them individually. So I don't want you to feel like you need to write these down or get in a panic about anything, okay? While I am talking today, I want you to pretend that I'm walking up and down the rows and almost tripping over backpacks, okay? Can y'all do that? Awesome. These criticisms of the news come from Walter Cronkite. And remember, I showed you a clip of Walter Cronkite when we were doing chapter 8, because remember, it took him 38 minutes to come out and announce to the world that President Kennedy had been killed. Walter Cronkite was more interested in being right than being first. No one cares about that anymore. All right, so let's talk about inaccuracies. We could start with Hurricane Katrina and just talk about how all of those stories were incorrect. But there are a lot of really more recent mistakes that I think are really fun to try to find. Do you guys see what's wrong here? Prince of Wales, get it? Yeah, besides the fact he's not the Prince of Wales, his father is. It's W-A-L-E-S, not the mammal. Here's a Fox News poll. I'm pretty sure that bin Laden was not running for the Senate in Rhode Island. How do you like this? Giant hornets kill 42 people in China. That's not China. That's not Hong Kong either. Yikes. And you know me well enough now to know that I have this chip on my shoulder about flyover country. And you can tell somebody, oh, this is Fox in Atlanta. They're like, oh, it's just one of those big square states in the middle. Let's just slap Kansas on it. Nobody will know. Yeah, that's Montana. Which country did Hitler want to burn? None of those are countries. Here's a map from CNN with some countries mislabeled. I don't even know what's going on there. You know what? Mistakes are very common. We are human. The news people are human, and they are filling 24 hours a day with news. So, of course, there are going to be some mistakes. I love to pick on them because they present themselves as truth, remember. Okay, another big criticism about the news media is that there's too much emphasis on the visual. And we've talked about this all semester. Do we live in a literate society or a visual society? We live in a visual society. So nothing is going to get covered unless there are pictures of it. Like the capsized boat that was carrying the refugees from North Africa to Italy that sank. The only pictures available so far are pictures of a little ship looking for survivors. I guarantee you, if there was more dramatic video, there would be more coverage of this story. 700 people died, and we're not hearing about it. Okay, so here's the Post-Dispatch the day after the Pearl Harbor attack. Here's the Post-Dispatch the day after Kennedy's killed. Nixon resigns. And then, as you can see, the trend goes toward huge pictures. Huge pictures. Now, visual society. What does it mean that we live in a visual society? Does that mean that anyone speaking gets overlooked? Absolutely. The fact that CNN did this to the president is amazing to me, and Fox did it too. So here's the president on one side of the screen saying the Brown family does not want violence. We don't want violence. And on the right, you're seeing the violence. So Remember, if your ears hear one thing and your eyes see another, your eyes are going to overrule your ears every time. So what this split screen image did to the president is basically make him look impotent, because whatever he's preaching over there on the left hand of the screen isn't working. It's really interesting. And yet, if the president's speaking, do you give him full screen or do you give him half screen? I mean, if I'm running a news program the night that this story breaks, I do not take my cameras off the streets of Ferguson, because I'm going to end up with some compelling video. And that's going to keep people watching. Remember, that's the goal. So if the president speaks, I'm only going to give him half the screen, and I'm only doing it because he's the president, because whatever he says is going to be overruled by the images on the right. See, I want you to start thinking about this stuff, start noticing it. This is the front page of a Post-Dispatch from a couple years ago. And I took a really bad quality picture of it with my camera because I didn't have a scanner. Let me give you a tour of this Post-Dispatch. And if you want to talk about the gestalt of the front page, that means like the world view, okay, the sum of the whole. The pictures here are 3 dead black kids, a black family over the story about poverty, and then on the bottom, it's a story about rappers. And what pictures do they show? Of course. So if you know nothing, if you have never met, remember we talked about that theory, the media construction of the other, right? Which was a fake theory, but totally awesome. If you do not know people who are African American and you let this front page of the Post-Dispatch define them for you, what are you learning? Think about this stuff, people. Get angry. All right. Another big criticism of the news. There's no context. And remember, we've talked about this before. There's no interest in international stories, typically, because international stories require background. We don't have time for background. We know the Arabs and the Israelis hate each other. We know it goes back to Abraham, but we don't know anything beyond that. Just give me the pictures and move on to the next story. So we get loads of pictures. Why are they mad? Oh, that's probably inside the article somewhere, but let's just show a really dramatic photo. Okay? Sensationalism, another huge criticism of the news. And you know what? I could, if I was in class right now, personally, like physically in class, Tom, you might want to do this. Are there stories that you think are completely ridiculous and yet still get covered in the news? Oh, you know what was in the news this morning? Kylie Jenner's lips, and how kids are trying to make their lips swollen to look like her and ending up with bruises. We've got sensationalism there, and we have celebrification. I made up that word. Because if celebrities are included in the story, you're going to get more traction because we're celebrity obsessed and it's ridiculous. Check it out. Breaking news. The Titanic sank 102 years ago tonight. How is that breaking news? Here's another one. This is overly sensational. It doesn't need to be on the news. And besides, CNN, if you can't type the word out on your screen, I'm pretty sure you've already answered your own question, right? You know what the big story was when Hillary campaigned in Iowa last week? She went to Chipotle, people. Big news. This is how ISIS recruits women with Nutella. It's crazy. All right, let's talk about bias. We've talked about bias before. Is it unavoidable? Absolutely. Should you just assume that everybody has some? Absolutely. You'll be a lot happier if you just assume there's no such thing as objectivity. And I show you this graph as an example. These were the 2012 results of campaign donations for the election from news and media companies. Okay, so they can tell you that they're trying to be objective, but come on, look at where their money goes, right? But bias works both ways. And I've shown you these pictures Here we have the president on a plate or a coin or a halo. All right. You don't even have to be a writer to show your bias. You can be a photographer for the New York Times, for example. This picture, according to many, lost the primary for her in 2008. I know, we're in a visual society. This stuff matters. Both of these pictures were on the front page of the same New York Times. We've got Paul Ryan up surrounded by red hell. And then we've got President Obama, the saint, right? So the New York Times doesn't have to say a word to demonstrate their leanings. So there's a visual language here that I want you all to be very familiar with. Check this out. This is from a couple weeks ago. The exact, well, about a month ago, okay, March 23rd. The same website, essentially the same story about arrests, but I just bring this up for your attention. The white kids are in suits and ties. The black guys that got arrested, they use their mugshots. Now, to play devil's advocate here, it could be, since the Iowa wrestlers were arrested, it could be that those are their wrestling team photos. But you know what? Why not use the mugshots? If you're going to use the mugshots of one, use the mugshots of all, because this is certainly sends a message about how this website feels about white criminals versus black criminals, alleged. Okay. This is one of my favorite examples of how you can let your feelings know, or let your feelings be shown without admitting that you're showing your feelings. Read these two summaries about what happened after the jury indictment did not come, and tell me which one is inflammatory and which one is just matter of fact. Interesting, isn't it? Now remember, when we talked about Michael Brown news coverage, how old was he? He's 18, and the Associated Press Style Guide says anybody who is 18 needs to be referred to as a man, right? An adult. An adult. Interesting case here of how they use words to show how they feel. This one makes me crazy. This actually showed up on Facebook. And it's a stereotype because what does it automatically assume about this man in the picture? That he's a sexual predator. Is he? We don't know. It was just a picture purchased by signupkidslivsafe.com. Why not choose a white guy? Why use a picture at all? Stay alert for this stuff. And then you can turn into being as crazy as me. Headlines. This is old, but I love it because the exact same thing happened. An officer was killed in a presidential motorcade, and Time magazine, you can see, used a different form, an active form of the verb and a passive form of the verb, so that it makes it sound like, you know, Bush's motorcade killed it. I love this stuff. Well, you can't go wrong with Us Magazine, and if I told you that the publisher of Us Magazine gives the maximum amount of money to one political party, and you look at these two covers, which party do you think it is? You guessed it. Yeah. And I love this headline too. Babies, lies, and scandal. Love this too. Romney's a wimp. And if you criticize Obama, what are you? You're dumb. Okay. Now I'm going to stop here and we're going to do another session on doctored news photos. Okay. All right. See ya.